What's up, y'all? It's your boy Tyrone Jackson, aka the Swift Key Agent, here to talk to you today about the VA assumption loan. What is it? All right, the VA assumption loan is a home loan that allows a buyer to purchase a home and later, when they decide to sell that home, allow someone to come in without getting their own loan and just take over the loan that I have with my interest rate and whatever my balance is, right? Okay, now there is a caveat to that interest rate portion. Typically, the loan or the lender is going to want to make some money off of this, right? So what they're going to do is they're going to probably upcharge you at least 1%, right? So instead of you paying the 3.5%, you're probably going to be paying 4.5%. The max will be 5 because I think the max is around 1.5. Don't quote me on that as far as the amount that they can raise that interest rate. But at the bare minimum, let's say it's 1%. All right, so if I'm at a 4.5% interest rate from an original 3.5%, I'm still doing pretty good if we talk about the status quo or the current market conditions compared to where the current interest rates are, right? Because they're typically floating around 5.5 to 7.5, maybe even 8%, depending on where you're at or what your market looks like, right? Locally. All right, now, so we got that part out of the way. Now, let's say I'll purchase that property for $100,000. 5 years goes by, I pay $20,000, and now I only owe $80,000, right? But I want to sell my house for $280,000. Here's where the part gets in where this really doesn't benefit the buyer or the seller, right? Now, while someone can come in, assume that loan, guess what they can only assume? The $80,000 that I have left. So that $80,000 in the 4.5% interest rate, all that gets smashed together, you can take over that just fine and dandy. That's cool, no big deal. We winning until we talk about that extra $200,000 that is totally unaccounted for. Where does that money come from? I can tell you right now, more than likely, it's not going to be a loan, which means you, as the buyer, need to bring that to the closing table as cash. Now, this is why I say that this loan doesn't work for us, because that's exactly the market conditions that we have right now. We have a bunch of homes that were bought for like maybe $278,000, but now they're on the market for $478,000, right? I don't know how many people have that just lying around to be able to take to a closing table and say, hey, you know what, let's go ahead and make this ours. And then typically the closing date is about 45 days to close on a loan like that. If you're lucky, there's been cases where it can go all the way up to like 6 months. All stuff that you're going to want to know prior to even signing on a dotted line, because when you get to the closing table, you know, the deal is probably not going to go through if you can't perform as you stated in the contract, which can open you up to a lot more liabilities, such as default, which can lead you to losing your contract or losing your binder or your escrow or your earnest money deposit. And who wants to do that, right? So that's how it doesn't benefit the buyer. Now let's talk about the seller. Now, as a seller, typically you're hoping that someone that comes along that wants to assume the loan is a VA person with VA benefits, right? Whether it's a veteran or active duty service member, whatever the case may be. Now, the thing about that is they don't have to be. It could be a total civilian, someone that's never served, and yeah, you can let them take over that. But guess what happens with your benefits? You essentially sign a piece of paper saying that, hey, I'm going to let this person take over my VA benefits in this capacity, which means you no longer have them until they end up paying or satisfying the rest of that payment that you were originally on the hook for. Now, let's say that they don't pay or they default on their loan. Guess who could be liable? You as the seller. So there's a number of reasons why you don't want to utilize this program, at least not right now. Now, if the stars aligned and like maybe the difference was like $10,000 to $30,000 as far as like what I need to bring to the closing table, well, that's a lot more feasible depending on your situation. Again, And yeah, yes, great. Then in that case, it's great because now you only got to worry about paying a 4.5% and avoiding a credit check that you didn't need to necessarily have to do. So, you know, there can be some benefits to the program. I just believe in the market that we're currently in, this does not fit our buyers or sellers, just because the majority of people are going to fit into that category to where they don't have that money sitting around in their bank account ready to just drop it on a $400,000 or $500,000 house or whatever. So buyers, sellers, and agents, I would recommend that y'all all look this information up. Don't just take my word for it, and you know, just educate yourself. And then if you don't want to look it up, you know, come here. Tyrone is always going to be able to pass his information that he learns on to you. That's what I'm here for. I don't like talking about myself in the third person, so y'all forgive me. But yeah, other than that, like, that's all I really wanted to talk to. If you knew about the VA assumption loan, please comment down in the section below. If you knew everything that we just talked about, if you got some other pointers that maybe that I didn't talk about, put all that down in there. I'd love to communicate with you, love to learn what you know, and you know, vice versa. Until then, if you found this video helpful, please like, comment, subscribe, follow, all that other good jazz, because it only helps me out and I appreciate it. I love y'all. Y'all take care. Until next time, Tyrone Jackson out.